It's been incredibly insightful for me growing up, watching her leadership in that role.
On March 10th, 2026, the House of Windsor has reached an absolute breaking point, with a cold, calculated display of raw authority that sent massive shockwaves straight through the royal corridors of power. His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, William, has completely and permanently crushed whatever power the York family had left. Just this morning, Buckingham Palace put out an official statement that acts as a brutal obituary for the royal standing of both Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, while warning other royals never to mistake crown protection for an unbreakable shield. The messy York era, forever stained by the dark shadow of its leader, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, has finally hit a screeching, deeply humiliating dead end. For decades, the royal household survived on the soft leniency of the late Queen Elizabeth II, a personal grace that constantly chose family secrets over public accountability. But on March 9th, 2026, that soft era officially died. Guided by the stern hand of the Princess Royal, Anne, Prince William has launched a brand new ruthless order for the British monarchy. A relentless structure demanding complete honesty and absolute moral duty, along with an immediate severing of every single connection to deeply compromised networks. The primary targets of this swift surgical strike are the two daughters of the now disgraced Andrew. Royal insiders describe the tense atmosphere inside the palace as completely glacial. Prince William, standing with Princess Anne in a rare, completely unified royal front, spelled out a harsh code of conduct for every single working royal. The final warning was unmistakable. Anyone who refuses to face these strict new ethical vetting protocols, or who refuses to open up their secret financial accounts for independent third-party audits, will lose the protective shield of the crown forever. The sudden spark for this dramatic crackdown, far beyond the lingering stench of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, comes from the stunning arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor on February 19, 2026. Handcuffed by Thames Valley police officers over heavy, serious charges of misconduct while holding a public office, the disgraced former prince's legal disaster has now arrived right on the doorstep of his children. As detectives continue searching through high-end royal properties in Norfolk and Berkshire, they are finding far more than just dry paperwork. They have actually dug up a massive paper trail pointing directly to Beatrice and Eugenie's continued and highly suspicious connections to the dark criminal empire of Jeffrey Epstein. Fresh documents dropped by United States authorities this month have completely destroyed the sweet story of pure ignorance the York sisters tried to push. Detectives now hold solid proof hinting that Beatrice, while she was serving as a United Kingdom trade envoy, was not just performing simple ceremonial duties, but was actively passing along highly sensitive intelligence. Insiders close to the official inquiry claim she fed secret updates to Epstein regarding the financial stability and political climates of Vietnam, Singapore, and most terrifyingly, the war-torn Helmand province in Afghanistan. Prince William's sudden move was far from impulsive. It was the final result of a secret months-long royal investigation that uncovered a truly horrifying pattern, using shady royal financial tricks to pay off Andrew's huge multi-million-pound civil lawsuit back in 2022. This shocking discovery has completely shifted public anger and rewritten the palace's internal policy, proving that those old rumours about the royal family covering up dirty secrets were completely true. The crown is absolutely not a safe haven for royals who put family loyalty above the law, an insider close to the Prince of Wales declared. As the sun came up over London on March 10th, the harsh reality for Beatrice and Eugenie became clear. Their royal safety net is gone. They have been scrubbed from the public face of the royal family. In the eyes of the palace's new leaders, they are toxic liabilities that had to be purged. As we look closer at the next stages of this massive royal crisis, we will track the rapid collapse of the York sisters' once proud professional lives, how their duties are being systematically handed over to figures like the Princess of Wales and young Lady Louise, alongside the shady shell companies that ultimately forced Prince William to take action. The Great Royal Purge has started, and absolutely no one, not even the King's direct family, is safe. The harsh order handed down on March 9th, 2026, and made final this morning, March 10th, represents a permanent tectonic shift in the very structure of the House of Windsor. For years, the York sisters Beatrice and Eugenie lived in a strange, privileged royal limbo. While they were technically non-working royals by standard definitions, they still enjoyed incredible prestige, holding honorary military titles and soaking up the massive soft power that comes from their close royal proximity. That long era of grey areas has been ended with a brutal surgical precision that clearly shows Prince William's uncompromising and tough vision for the future of the British monarchy, in a stunning decision sending deep tremors straight through the British establishment. The palace has now officially stripped Beatrice and Eugenie of every single remaining military role and honorary patronage, and perhaps most devastating of all, their official royal styles. They are absolutely no longer allowed to be addressed by the official royal titles that once served as an easy shield against public scrutiny. This new palace directive is entirely final. The famous York brand, once a huge staple of major royal charities and high society galas, will now be treated as an absolute toxic asset. The reason behind this aggressive move is just as much about logistics as it is about moral duty. The massive backlog of royal charities, Prince William views those high-profile green summits and diplomatic roles once managed by the York sisters as a massive ticking reputational minefield for the family. Under the tough new guidelines put together by William, with Princess Anne keeping a very close watch on the logistics, these royal duties cannot be left vacant. Instead, trusted replacements are already moving in to take over. It is being taken over to maintain absolute stability. From this moment on, these essential public duties are being handed over with a sharp, strategic goal. Right at the centre is Catherine, the Princess of Wales, whose incredibly high public approval ratings still set the absolute gold standard for the royal family, guiding this entire transition forward. Working right beside Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, is the increasingly popular Lady Louise Windsor, and with behind-the-scenes backup from James, the Earl of Wessex, this fresh group is being actively promoted as the true, untarnished future of the entire British crown. This royal shift is far more than just rearranging calendars. It sends a loud and clear message to global businesses and international diplomats. Massive organisations that once partnered with Beatrice and her sister Eugenie, such as the telecom giant BT and the major banking group Barclays, have already received direct contact from the brand new Palace Transparency Office. And the message was incredibly clear. Cut off every old contract tied to the former York princesses right away. The real aim is to completely clean the royal portfolio, erasing any last links to the Epstein scandal that has dogged Andrew Mountbatten Windsor for over 10 years. This intense process of systematic extraction is already starting to show real results. Top-tier universities and massive international charitable networks, terrified of getting caught up in the toxic Epstein controversy, have scrambled to cut their connections. The palace is quietly helping these breakups along, making sure that none of that old toxic drama touches the newly organised, slimmed-down royal family. The message behind this replacement is totally deliberate. As the sisters are slowly wiped from official royal records, Catherine is making a major return to the spotlight, especially with her highly anticipated appearance at the Royal Ascot, which is designed to show a picture of complete strength and healing. It is a carefully crafted public picture to show that the royal family is not just surviving the York scandal, but is actually doing better by dumping its excess baggage. For those sisters, there is no room left to negotiate. This is strictly about damage control. Their total removal from the official royal family calendar is now completely finished. They have been pushed right to the very edges, their daily lives watched closely, and their old royal perks treated like an unpaid debt. The Prince of Wales is not just doing a basic clean-up. He is changing the rules of serving the crown. As for Beatrice and Eugenie, going from trusted family insiders to being treated as toxic liabilities is a shocking fall from grace. It is a moment future historians will study, showing when the modern British monarchy decided that survival mattered far more than family bloodlines. While the palace works to lock down its financial and public reputation boundaries, the spotlight is now shifting toward the deeply buried secrets of the York household, especially those shady shell companies and strange offshore investments that William and Princess Anne are currently picking apart piece by piece. Removing these family members was just the very first step. Digging into their hidden money is where the real storm is starting to brew. As the dust finally begins to settle on the direct drama of throwing out the Yorks, the attention of the new palace watchdog group has moved past empty titles and fancy public appearances. Now they are tackling the much more dangerous world of financial ledgers, hidden offshore companies, and shady investment schemes. For both Prince William and Princess Anne, that strict ethics check protocol they started back on the 9th of March 2026 was never just some simple, annoying piece of paperwork. It was a total trap. By refusing to open up their records for outside independent audits, Beatrice and Eugenie did far more than just act stubborn. They accidentally handed over the exact smoking gun that proved years of rumours about the family hiding their private wealth. This deep investigation, run by the palace's own specialised financial investigators, has uncovered a tangled web of money moves. These were built to hide where the Yorks got their cash, while keeping them quietly tied to the Epstein financial network. These secret shell companies, set up in tax havens with barely any rules, did far more than just protect their family fortune. Investigators suspect these accounts were used to quietly move massive assets that, under closer examination, could be tied directly back to that same disgraced financier who once had Andrew Mountbatten Windsor in his circle. William's team found that the multi-million-pound settlement paid to Virginia Giuffre back in 2022, which shocked the public and sparked instant questions about its true source, was actually not as they claimed. A quiet personal sacrifice direct from the late Queen's private estate. Instead, the financial paper trail hints that some cash came from sketchy consulting contracts and advisory fees quietly funneled through shell companies, where Beatrice and Eugenie held secret silent shares of equity. This explosive revelation has ended up being the final nail in the coffin for palace patience. The Prince of Wales has been incredibly blunt during his secret palace briefings. The monarchy cannot claim to support the law while shielding royals who use their royal seal of approval to land sketchy high-interest loans and shady investments that would get laughed out of 17 reputable financial institutions. The public is fully aware of the massive irony in this whole situation. While Beatrice and Eugenie loudly preached about charity and modern values, their secret financial network was, in the exact words of a senior palace advisor, practically identical to the shady, high-risk financial schemes run by their father's most notorious friends. This strict royal ethics check was the ultimate test of their loyalty and innocence. Once the sisters flatly rejected the demand for complete, unrestricted transparency, they basically chose to keep their financial secrets quiet rather than save their royal status. To Princess Anne, making this choice was basically a silent confession of guilt. By holding on to their strong ties with these shady financial networks, they guaranteed that the dirty Epstein stain would permanently ruin their public reputation. They did not just fail the royal audit, they ran away from it. Even worse, the sheer scale of this financial exposure is absolutely mind-blowing. We are looking at a long era from 2018 up to today where hundreds of millions of pounds in massive transactions went through sketchy entities that seem to have absolutely no real business purpose. These shady setups, with many of them now exposed as fake paper-only shell companies, helped build a fake image of professional success for the Yorks, acting as a clever screen to hide massive money movements. The British tax authorities and independent auditors are now working hand in hand with the palace to find out if these operations simply bent the laws or completely shattered the integrity of the entire British financial system. For Beatrice and Eugenie, their old strategy of quiet damage control has completely failed. They assumed that by laying low and refusing to speak about their father's growing legal disasters, they could somehow ride out the storm. But they did not realise that under the new Windsor rule, keeping quiet is no longer seen as a neutral stance. Now it looks like complicity. Each single day they stayed connected to these dirty financial networks was another day they actively worked against the best interests of the Crown. Cutting them off completely was not just about punishing them, it was a vital move to protect the royal family. The royal family simply could not afford to be the last major institution holding on to the burning wreckage of the York financial disaster. As we transition to the next part of our report, we will examine how this harsh financial ban has heavily impacted their private lives, especially the collapse of their home life and the slow destruction of their privacy under the harsh spotlight of a public that no longer views them as beloved royals, but as prime targets of deep, well-deserved suspicion. For both Beatrice and Eugenie, getting kicked out of their official palace roles was just the opening act of a painful personal collapse. Locked behind the massive security gates of their private estates, the glamorous life they built inside the royal inner circle has totally crumbled under the pressure of endless public hate and the icy distant gaze of their own relatives. The old dream of keeping the family united has quickly been replaced by a cold, ruthless reality. The York sisters have basically become total pariahs within their own home. Their private lives perfectly reflect the massive institutional disgrace that has swallowed them whole. The clearest sign of this marriage drama centres right on Princess Eugenie and her husband Jack Brooksbank. Once celebrated as a highly modern, down-to-earth couple juggling official duties with private business ventures, their marriage has now become the target of intense, non-stop speculation. Royal watchers quickly noticed a cold break from protocol during the recent birthday event for King Charles III. Eugenie showed up entirely by herself, a lonely figure amid the grand royal pageantry, clearly signalling a major break from their usual picture-perfect united front. Her husband Jack was very noticeably missing, adding fuel to rumours that the heavy pressure of the Epstein scandal and constant paparazzi harassment has pushed their marriage to the absolute breaking point. Palace insiders whisper that the marriage has been under terrible strain ever since the 2026 investigation ramped up. This pressure is coming from two main sides. First, the loud public demand for full accountability, and second, a direct order from Prince William that any partner tied to the York Circle must face the highly intrusive and intense financial auditing of the new ethics check. For Jack Brooksbank, whose private business operations have often been criticised for their total lack of transparency, handing over his private financial ledgers to the royal forensic accountants was a high hurdle he either couldn't or simply wouldn't clear. This growing isolation gets even worse with the couple's prolonged stay in their Portugal home. What was once painted as a simple lifestyle choice or a healthy desire for privacy is now viewed by both the public and royal insiders as a highly strategic retreat. Essentially a form of self-imposed exile designed to escape the burning heat of the British media. However, the move has completely backfired on them. Instead of giving them privacy, the distance has created a massive vacuum now filled with wild speculation, online sleuths and anonymous royal watchdog accounts. Including the massive online community called Exposing Royals Network, have been absolutely relentless. Their cryptic public messages are absolutely devastating, dropping teasers about an imminent split in the York partnership, a phrase that has haunted Princess Eugenie in nearly every British tabloid headline. The heavy emotional toll is highly visible. Eugenie, who once tried hard to project public loyalty to her father Prince Andrew, now finds herself trapped in a brutal catch-22. Her ongoing public defence of a man at the centre of a major criminal investigation has alienated her from the royal institution that once shielded her from the world. Now she is forced to choose between the toxic loyalty of her family and the survival of her own personal future. It is a heartbreaking choice that has ultimately left her politically stranded. Her sister, Princess Beatrice, has fared no better. Her efforts to project an image as a serious, hard-working businesswoman have been systematically shredded by the shocking revelations of her past emails with Jeffrey Epstein. Painting her as a highly willing participant in that dark social world, the rest of society has spent a whole decade trying to condemn. The two royal sisters are now completely stranded, having even been removed from the exclusive Royal Ascot guest list, which acts as a total social death sentence in the elite British aristocracy, and they have been completely scrubbed from the official royal diary. They are no longer even invited to those quiet private family gatherings at Sandringham or Balmoral, where the ultimate future of the British monarchy is constantly debated. To the new royal guard, they are simply legacy risks. The psychological weight of this sudden family transition cannot be overstated. From the lavish gilded halls of Buckingham Palace to the lonely silence of their home in Portugal, the real journey of the York sisters has been one of brutal contraction. They have completely shifted from symbols of royal privilege to symbols of major liability. Now the York family brand is synonymous with deep secrecy and shady financial ties, and an absolute failure to adapt to the moral requirements of a 21st century monarchy. As the intense forensic investigation into their personal finances deepens and real legal action looms on the horizon, their private personal lives are no longer theirs to manage. They are completely trapped in a strict new narrative written by Prince William, one that has absolutely no room for any ghosts of the past. This total isolation is complete, and for the very first time in their lives, there is absolutely no one left at the palace to answer their calls. While the York sisters are systematically pushed to the margins of modern royal history, the entire House of Windsor is undergoing a deep and highly visible transformation. The vacuum created by the swift removal of Beatrice and Eugenie is certainly not being left unfilled. Instead, it is being occupied by a new order of stability, a hand-picked royal cohort designed to project an image of flawless integrity and professional rigour, and an unwavering commitment to the future of the crown. Spearheaded by the Princess of Wales, Catherine, this major transition is the centrepiece of Prince William's vision for a modern monarchy that is fit for purpose, but also completely invulnerable to the toxic scandals of the past. The strategic promotion of Catherine is highly deliberate. Her return to the spotlight of the royal schedule, especially her highly anticipated appearance at the upcoming Royal Ascot, is carefully choreographed to serve as the definitive ultimate antithesis to the York era, where the Yorks represented secrecy and deep familial entitlement, and the dark, lingering threat of the Epstein stain. Catherine represents the complete recovery of the royal family's moral authority. Her very presence serves as a visual promise to the British public. The British monarchy has been cleansed of its most toxic elements and is now firmly back in the hands of those who prioritise the crown's health over personal privilege. This brand new royal structure is built upon a solid foundation of shared responsibility and absolute loyalty to strict ethical standards. Joining Princess Catherine in this new revitalised front is the Duchess of Edinburgh, Sophie, whose quiet competence and endless years of discreet service have easily positioned her as one of the most reliable pillars of the new monarchy. Alongside them, the inclusion of Lady Louise Windsor and the Earl of Wessex, James, serves to signal the grand arrival of a younger generation currently being trained to operate within a strict framework of absolute total transparency. This is a highly deliberate generational reboot specifically aimed at ensuring that the errors of the past, specifically that old tendency to treat high royal status as an inheritance of unaccountability, are never repeated by the future custodians of the British crown, the hard-working Princess Royal Anne. She remains the architect of this royal clean-up. Her role is truly massive. She has served as the iron-willed enforcer of this strict new code, making sure the transition from the old guard to the new order happens without any hesitation or compromise. Princess Anne has made it absolutely clear in her private directives that the entire monarchy is now engaged in a total purification process, one that reaches far beyond the immediate household of Prince Andrew. She has indeed publicly and privately declared that the royal family will no longer shrink away from the harsh pain of confrontation. "We are not here to serve private interests," she pointed out in a recent confidential briefing. "We are here to fully protect and safeguard the legitimacy of the crown, and that demands the courage to cut out whatever is no longer healthy." This bold strategy represents a massive departure from the old 20th century rule of never complaining and never explaining. Instead, the newly modern monarchy is choosing to use transparency as a powerful weapon. By taking the lead to actively investigate, spot, and kick out compromised individuals, Prince William and Princess Anne are completely taking back the narrative of the British monarchy. They are no longer helpless victims of press leaks or intense public backlash. They are now the active curators of their own royal reputation. Whenever a prominent member of the royal family like the York sisters fails to meet their high standards, the palace acts first. This new preemptive strike capability is exactly what separates the revitalised Windsor operation from the crumbling, weak facade of the previous decade. The British public response to this major shift has been largely one of deep relief. For many years, the British taxpayer has watched in frustration as the royal institution seemed to be held hostage by the wild antics and shady associations of the York branch. Seeing Catherine, Sophie and the younger royals eagerly stepping into these newly vacated roles serves as a highly powerful and welcome restorative. It clearly signals that the royal brand is actively being protected, modernised and safely insulated from the massive risks that once threatened to tear it all apart. As we head into the final section of this special report, we will analyse the much broader historical implications of this royal purge. We will closely examine exactly why this is not just a temporary crisis management strategy, but rather a permanent, deep recalibration of the British monarchy's core relationship with true accountability, wealth, and its own ultimate survival in a modern world that is increasingly intolerant of the privileges of the past. The critical events of March 9th and 10th, 2026 will be forever etched deeply into the constitutional history of the United Kingdom, not merely as a simple family dispute, but as the exact moment the House of Windsor fundamentally renegotiated its long-standing social contract with the British people. By executing an incredibly clean, totally uncompromising rupture with the troubled York branch, Prince William and Princess Anne have clearly signalled the final end of the old age of privilege and the bright dawn of a new order defined by institutional survival through radical, absolute transparency. This is simply no longer a monarchy that hides away behind the safe veil of archaic royal tradition. It is a modern monarchy that fully recognises its survival depends on its absolute ability to evolve, shed its toxic elements, and demonstrate its true relevance in an era that demands complete public accountability. This swift purge of Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie represents the very final act in a long, highly painful royal tragedy that originally began with those disastrous early associations between Prince Andrew and the disgraced late financier Jeffrey Epstein. For several decades, the royal palace relied heavily on a strategy of deflection and controlled silence, constantly hoping that the historic prestige of the crown would be more than sufficient to mask the deep cracks in its moral foundation. But that old strategy has been soundly defeated by the relentless sharp glare of 21st century digital scrutiny, the rising public demand for true ethical parity, and a major generational shift right within the royal family itself. This modern new order is firmly built on the sudden realization that institutional silence does not equal stability. It is in fact the absolute greatest threat to long-term institutional longevity. As the royal palace quickly pivots toward this new future, the underlying symbolism of the new order is incredibly stark. The rising emergence of the Princess of Wales, Catherine, as the primary face of royal stability, is certainly not just a strategic choice for basic public relations. It is a clear manifestation of the monarchy's deliberate intent to link its own future directly to those who truly embody the core values of duty discipline and modern public service. The growing roles of Lady Louise Windsor and the new Earl of Wessex James further reinforce this serious commitment, strongly suggesting a brand new future where members of the royal family are defined solely by their active contributions rather than their noble titles. This is a forward-thinking monarchy that is actively curating its very own successor generation to ensure that the heavy mistakes of the past, and specifically the absolute insularity and arrogance that define the controversial York era, are systematically and completely eliminated. Furthermore, the broader historical implications of this intense purification process are highly significant. The bold decision to implement a strict ethics check and to insist upon external financial audits for all working royals represents an unprecedented massive concession to the democratic principle of true transparency. It clearly indicates that the Crown is fully willing to sacrifice its own close bloodlines just to protect its ultimate legitimacy. Make no mistake, this sends an incredibly loud message to the Commonwealth Parliament and the watchful global public. This historic institution is not above the law, and its royal members are never exempt from the strict standards of behaviour expected of any other public figure in modern society. Looking ahead at the rest of 2026, the big question is no longer if this monarchy can survive, but what exact shape it will take over the coming decades. The York family scandal has served as a brutal crucible forging a far more disciplined, transparent and resilient palace. Under the direct and active leadership of William and Anne, the modern House of Windsor is aggressively shedding that protective shell of the 20th century, while fully embracing the harsh, unforgiving light of the 21st. The terrible Epstein stain will always remain a dark footnote in royal history, but it will also be remembered as the exact trigger that forced this dynasty to choose between its past ghosts and future survival. Fortunately, the royal horizon is no longer clouded by the toxic uncertainty of private scandals. Instead, the family is focused on a future that is for the first time in memory clearly defined by an actual commitment to integrity. The Crown has clearly demonstrated that it is fully willing to perform this painful surgery to remain the absolute bedrock of British identity. While personal costs have been immense, fracturing close families and ending historic royal careers, and exposing the deepest fractures within the historic House of York, any institutional inaction would have been completely fatal. This massive royal purge is done. A new order has now begun. And for the British monarchy, that long path forward is finally clear.